Viewers, good morning. This morning I want to address the issue of Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy. The legacy of His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta of Kenya keeps on moving, keeps on going forward and forward. Since the handshake in 2018 that brought about the peace, the tranquility, the unity of purpose, President Uhuru's star has been rising. All over Africa, people are thinking of using the model that Kenya used to stop any form of violence, chaos on the streets after elections. As you know, all of you are aware that elections in Africa produce two things: after or before or after the voting. Disputed elections, winner takes it all, loser doesn't accept the results. But the Kenyan model takes us miles and miles away from the normal type of democracy. The democracy, a negotiated format, a consensus format. A democracy that gives consensus a chance. A democracy that talks about the future of a country, the unity of a country, as opposed to a fragmented country, polarized country, where most African countries find themselves in. We have seen in the last 10 years or so, most of the elections in Africa have been contested by the opposition. Very few people in Africa, countries in Africa, where opposition has conceded defeat and come up to congratulate the winner. We have seen the South African model has worked very well. The Ghanaian model has worked so well. I don't see any other country in Africa where the models have worked well. I thought it would be Sierra Leone, but today we see Sierra Leone going back to the same ethnic tensions, as you can see from the reports that are circulating in the international media and the local media. So elections in Africa are contentious issues. They create a contentious position, create a departing point for the people of Africa, of that particular nation. The legacy of Uhuru Kenyatta, therefore, will be remembered for having brought the tranquility that we have today, the peace, the new format, the new tool of having a better organized civil Africa, an Africa without violence, an Africa without chaos after elections, when the opposition accepts to work for the interests of a nation, not personal interests. This has worked in Kenya, and thank you very much, Your Excellency President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, for the tenacity and the steadfastness that you have guided this handshake up to today. For those who want to mutilate the handshake, belittle the handshake, one lesson they should learn is to look at Libya. Libya was once a territory we all respected. It is no more. Let's keep the handshake and the legacy of President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. Thank you.
peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us. My name is Miriam Ogutu, and the show is Good Morning Africa. Of course, the television station is Punchline Africa TV, and we're coming to you from Nairobi, that is Kenya's capital here. A few minutes past 9 a.m. East African time. I don't know where you're watching us from, but good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you tuned in. So thank you so much for finding time to be with us today. Before I get into the headlines and introduce my panelists for today, let's bring ourselves up to date with the latest in terms of the numbers in COVID-19. And Kenya today, the confirmed cases stand at 77,785. The death toll is 1,392 cases. Recoveries is 51,903. And Uganda, the confirmed cases are at 18,165. The death toll is 181, and recoveries is 8,675. And South Africa, the leading country in the continent, at 767,759 cases. The death toll is 20,968, and recoveries stands at 711,195 cases. And the total cases in Africa this morning, over 1,719,900. The number of people who have since succumbed to COVID-19 in the continent have topped 55,325, and recoveries is at 1,380,430. And the global figures are nearing 60,000 right now, standing slightly over 59.5 million cases, and the global deaths have surpassed 1.4 million cases, and the global recoveries standing at over 41.1 million people there that have since recovered from COVID-19 across the globe. So that is where we stand this morning. And before I get into the headlines, I'm joined by Daniel Wasonga from Nairobi. Daniel, good morning.
Yes, a very, very good morning, Miriam Ogutu, at our headquarters in Nairobi, and our viewers here in Kenya, Africa, and the rest of the world. Good morning, wherever they are watching us from.
All right, very well. So, of course, if you were watching the news yesterday, Daniel, then you know we have a lot to talk about, especially that press conference that the DCI had, and we will get into that in a short bit. But first, on the Standard newspaper, the main headline there says BBI reggae plays on signature launch. President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga set to launch collection of 4 million signatures for the Building Bridges initiative tomorrow in a drive that will last a week, signaling that there is no going back on the report. What is your reaction before I even get into the details? Yeah,
Miriam. Yes, it's all systems set for the BBI report. The stage is there already for the report signature collection to start this week on Wednesday. And remember, the other day when we were discussing about the postponement of signature collection, we say that the BBI task force had come out with a schedule which they were to follow. And you saw that in that particular schedule, the signature collection was scheduled between 2nd of November to 2nd of December. So even though they postponed the other day, we were so much optimistic that this was still within the time bracket. And that is what has come to happen. So we believe it's still so much in course. And perhaps now we are headed to a contested referendum, Miriam.
Mm-hmm. So the story is on page 6 of the Standard newspaper. It says President Uhuru Kenyatta and ODM leader Raila Odinga will tomorrow launch a signature collection for the Building Bridges initiative report in Nairobi. The two handshake partners are expected to kick off the collection of the 4 million signatures for the BBI Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020 at Kenyatta International Convention Center. And the BBI National Secretariat, led by Joint Chairman Junet Mohammed from Suna East, former Dagoretti South Member of Parliament Dennis Wawero, and members Janet Ongera from Kisii and Sarah Kilemi revealed this when they spoke to the media yesterday. And Wawero is quoted as saying, "We now wish to inform all Kenyans that we shall launch collection of signatures as it is required by law for the bill tomorrow. The process will be led by the President and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga." What I need to know is if at all, some of these issues that okay, there was speculation that process will be delayed after Uhuru met his deputy William Ruto at State House last week, but tomorrow's launch now means Uhuru and Raila are determined to see the process, which they initiated through the handshake go the whole hog. Ruto and his allies, a section of the religious groups and other interested Kenyans, have been calling for a consensus of the BBI report. That means some of these things that say the DP Ruto had wanted to be included in the report, because they've not been told whether they've been included. So that means that they have not been included. So where does that leave our Deputy President if you were to assume like that?
Miriam, first of all, I would like to say that Kenyans are very peculiar people because, they will so much buy into propaganda and speculation rather than the facts that are out there. When the Deputy President met his boss in State House before flying out of the country, no details emerged, no official communication was made, even from the Deputy President's side or maybe the President's side, saying that they had talks about BBI, maybe giving it an extension so that the people of those who seek consensus could be included. This was a creation of a few individuals on social media who wants to drive a certain narrative, perhaps maybe to just bring up some kind of euphoria amongst their supporters. And to me, I think for the BBI report, we had a very sufficient time where people were to represent their views before the BBI task force. And even after that, the validation period, still people had that opportunity to go and give divergent views about it. And when that window closed, I think it was it. And whatever message that the president, as much as the former prime minister also has been saying, is that whatever is happening now is just fine-tuning so that we make those sections, those proposals that have not been yet well elaborated, to be quite well elaborated so that all the interested groups are able to know whatever the document carries for them. So to me, I think it was just a matter of speculation because up to now, no one has come out to say that now the issues that those ones who are calling for consensus presented to the task force have been considered in the BBI report. Mm-hmm. So, and as I said earlier on, I believe, Miriam, we are inevitably heading to a contested referendum, and the document shall be as it was.
Mm-hmm. All right, so yesterday, Raila maintained the door to any major changes to the BBI document had been shut. There must be an end to the collection of views. We have had 2 years collecting views. We must now take the process further, all the way to the referendum. We are going to launch the collection of signatures this week. And as much as I know there are people who might be opposed to, of course, Raila insisting that the door of the BBI has been shut. And he's saying, we've been having 2 years. Why hasn't these people, why didn't they not take their time within the 2 years to come and bring their views? Does that, does that hold? Yeah.
Yes, Miriam, Kenya, we are a country where our politics thrives beyond anything else. We talk about politics anywhere and everywhere. And that is why perhaps those proponents of BBI see that if they have to give a chance to people who are calling for consensus, then this entire process will be bogged down into very petty politics. And at the end of the day, it will derail its implementation. Remember, Miriam, we had more than we have been talking about the BBI report for the last 2 years. We had very open sessions. The task force was moving around the country. In fact, it went around the 47 counties of the country, and the views were submitted by Kenyans of all walks of life. And even so, those ones who could not submit their views in person before the task force were given an email address where they could submit their written memoranda, and also they were accepting walk-ins at their offices at the KICC to submit these memoranda on how we can be able to better the document. So therefore, it is very suspect when these politicians wait until the document is ready now for it to be implemented, is when they come out and and call for consensus. And remember, Miriam, also it should not elude our memory that these are the same kind of individuals who have been calling on their supporters to ensure that the BBI document does not see the light of the day. So we see there's a lot of hypocrisy. There's a lot of bad intent on those who call for consensus. And therefore, I believe the former Prime Minister, as a politician of a high intuition and someone who has been in this field for quite some time, he knows that these people are just there to waste time and buy and be able to sabotage the entire process. So at the end of the day, if we say that we listen to them, then it is the BBI proponents who are going to be the biggest losers, and the Kenyans at large, because these are documents which is meant to benefit Kenya as a country, and is a people-driven document. Mm-hmm. And I remember yesterday, Raila Odinga said, we cannot stop the BBI discussion simply because we have corona, because no one has a surety that tomorrow it's going to be any better. We might be talking about corona today. Tomorrow we are faced by famine. The other day we are faced by drought. We are faced by locusts and all that. So problems might be there as a country. We must be facing problems as a country. But that does not mean that we postpone issues and discussions that are able to better our future, Miriam. I submit.
Mm-hmm. All right. So from what you've said there, what Raila said yesterday about COVID being here, because that has been the latest line of defense for the DP Ruto and his allies, saying that, right now the country needs to be focused on the fight against COVID-19. And yesterday, Raila maintained the door. Okay, fine, I've read that. At a meeting with a section of One Kenya leaders, Raila said they have tried to be as inclusive as possible with the document. Raila opined that life must go on and chastised those calling for stoppage of the process to deal with corona pandemic, adding that those calling for a non-contested referendum were being hypocritical. World over, a referendum is contested, so that those who are supporting it have a right, just like those who are opposing it. We are not forcing anybody to support it. We are a democratic country. Last week, Ruto had called for halting of the process, collecting signatures until proposed changes to the BBI report are made. Ruto also took to his Twitter handle to call for a stop to all activities to allow focus on fighting COVID-19. But according to Raila, there are countries in the world that have conducted their elections amid the pandemic, and he's quoted as saying life must continue despite the pandemic. The US has just conducted their elections, Tanzania just next door conducted theirs, and Uganda is now at the height of elections campaign despite the pandemic. Kenya is not different from all those countries. Life must go on. Ajavan, good morning.
Good morning, Miriam. Good morning to Esonga. Good morning to our viewers, wherever they are catching this broadcast from.
All right. So Raila Odinga is saying we cannot use a COVID-19 pandemic as the reason as to why we cannot continue with some of the planned things, including the BBI and perhaps the referendum that is scheduled for next year.
Yeah, Miriam, we must agree that, Miriam, if they are talking of suspending the BBI, Miriam, every other government project is ongoing. Miriam, we have roads that are under construction. The people who go to markets, they are still selling their products. Farmers are still doing their farming. Everybody, Miriam, is doing their business, Miriam. Even those who sell bars and hotels, they are back to their business, Miriam. Therefore, we cannot say that we stop one part of our life because of COVID-19. Miriam, that is being hypocritical, because at the end of the day, these members of parliament and our politicians are still going to the churches. They are there in barriers talking matters politics. They are in our local TV station talking politics. What is this in the BBI that they don't want to be addressed? Therefore, that is hypocritical for those who are calling for the suspension of the BBI process. Because, Miriam, everything else that they used to do, they are still doing it, Miriam. They only postponed a few things, but, Miriam, the political area is still going on. Miriam, our courts are still working. Therefore, we cannot say that the BBI is the only thing that will cause COVID-19 in this nation. Miriam, at the end of the day, it is the national is a personal responsibility of an individual that will curb the spread of COVID-19. Therefore, if people will observe the government protocols that they are enshrined to ensure that we curb the spread of COVID-19, then I don't see any problem going on with the BBI process. And Miriam, we must agree on this. We have seen a meeting in Mount Kenya conducted on Social Hall. Last week they were in Remuru and they were in Nyeri. And Miriam, you could see the kind of observation they are doing. They are on their mask, they are washing their hands, they are sanitizing. Therefore, those people who are talking of a consensus, I think this is too late, Miriam. And Miriam, if it is about there's something that they disagree, Miriam, and they should come up with their own constitutional amendment, because Miriam, nobody is denied that chance. They can go out, come with their own constitutional amendment bill or a process. They call it whatever they will name it. Then they will come with those things that they feel are not addressed in the BBI. Then the due process will be followed. They will go for the 24 counties, like we did with the Okoa Kenya, the Punguza Muzigo, but they didn't see the light of the day. Therefore, they should not panic, Miriam, because at the end of the day, Kenyans will decide. And Miriam, let me say this, it is on record that the deputy president and his allies have been telling us that Kenyans are not full, Miriam. And I agree, Kenyans are no longer fools. We are able to read and comprehend the document. And if they feel Kenyans are not full, it is Kenyans who will decide. Therefore, I don't expect them to be worried of their followers who are not fools, because at the end of the day, they will make a wise decision. Therefore, let's go for the ballot. The no will win, and the yes will take. Whoever will win, Miriam, at the end of the day, let me not talk like a prophet, because I don't know who will carry the day. But whichever team will take the day, Kenya will continue, Kenya will stand on, Kenya will continue doing all other businesses that we do as a country. Therefore, Miriam, I agree with the former Prime Minister that the train has already left the station. And those people, Miriam, what I understand, when we go for the referendum, we'll not have a point where we say maybe, perhaps this document is good, but on this, it will either no or yes. There's no chance for the middle ground. Thank you, Miriam. I agree and with the former Prime Minister.
Yes, and before Jevon, before I bring Daniel in, I'd asked Daniel earlier, because from what you're learning now, tomorrow they launch, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his handshake brother Raila Odinga will launch the collection of signatures drive for the Building Bridges Initiative report tomorrow. So we're not really told, if at all, the changes, the DP, Ruto, and other section of Kenyans who had raised some concern about certain articles on the BBI report, that they wanted changed or included or whatever it is they wanted and they weren't comfortable with. So we're not told if that has been factored in. So just in case, because we really don't know, we don't know if at all any of that has been captured, some of the people who wanted the changes, including the DP, but particularly Deputy President William Ruto, if his opinion and his wish and his some of the things he wanted included in the BBI report is not included, where does that leave him in the bigger picture?
Miriam, at the end of the day, Miriam, let's make our viewers understand that this document is not meant to benefit a particular individual. And Miriam, we had the time to take our proposals. And if you fail to take your proposal or you are concerned to the steering committee for when they are doing the validation process, then Miriam, you have yourself to blame. You will not blame anybody else, because you are the one who failed and who didn't believe in the process. Therefore, Miriam, I feel like if the deputy president, I don't see any scenario that his views, because he had a very pertinent issues that could alter the entire document that they have been included. I don't feel like they have been included in the process. And I feel like Miriam, as where we are, Miriam, it reaches to a point in politics where you cannot go forward, you cannot turn back, you cannot go side. You are just there confused. And that is the situation that our first vice president, sometimes back in 1966, found himself in when they disagreed with the first president, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. And because Mzee Jaramogi was quite a patriot Kenyan, what he did, he resigned, because Miriam, when you reach to a point where you cannot retreat forward or you cannot go back or move forward, Miriam, what you do is you just resign and start your own process. You start your own journey afresh, because now, Miriam, if he'll go and say yes, Miriam, he will say yes on which ground? But he has a chance to say no. But Miriam, if he says no, Miriam, and the process goes on, he will have to eat bitter pie, because at the end of the day, he might find himself impeached, because that is a government process and you are opposing it and you are the deputy president. Therefore, from me, if I feel like I don't know, but because I don't advise that team, but I feel like time is right for the deputy president to ship out, because now it is clear that they are not reading from the same script with the president, and he is not ready to support the document. Because Miriam, if he happens to support the document today, he will paint a picture of a person who is not trustworthy. He will paint a picture of a person who is confused. And I feel like as a person of his status, he does not want to take that route. The best option he has is to resign before he is impeached.
All right, Daniel, is DP likely to join the BBI team? Because we know from what he's been saying and from what his allies have been saying, the DP is not keen on leading the No campaign. So is he likely to join the BBI team out of convenience, or what do you see happening moving forward?
First and foremost, we have to understand that the deputy president, as he is right now, he is between a rock and a hard place, in that his allies and maybe himself in private perceives BBI as a process which is meant to undermine his 2022 prospects, which is something which is not true, Miriam. BBI is a people-driven document, a document which aims to elevate the lives of Kenyans, to improve in matters of peace and unity, and also create opportunities, more future opportunities for the country. So the DP perceives this as a document and as a ploy to hinder his 2022 bid. And therefore, that is why we have been seeing some vapor of opposition coming from his side. And even himself, he has not shied away from openly telling his supporters not to support BBI, or maybe disassociating himself from the process. On the other side also, Miriam, the deputy president is faced by the dilemma of openly defying his boss and campaigning against the government that he serves in. And therefore, that is why he has not been so much keen on having a contested referendum, and rather has been calling on a consensus, a win-win situation, which cannot happen, because, Miriam, even when the colonialists were leaving this continent in early 1950s, they had to give some countries an option of doing a referendum. And for that record, France gave all the colonies it had in Africa a referendum to decide whether they wanted to stay under the wings of France, or they wanted to have self-governance. And also we saw the other day in Britain, one of the most mature democracies in the world, when they wanted to exit from the European Union, the Brexit vote, they had to decide, they had to throw the ball on the people's court to decide their fate, to vote either yes or no. So therefore, the notion of having an uncontested referendum is very far-fetched, and it does not have any elements of democratic expressions in it. And Miriam, as you asked, I feel that the deputy president is being ingenuine, and whatever he's scared about this referendum is that it's going to place him against his own boss and against his own government that he serves in, and that might not shed a very good picture of him. And therefore, he's at all costs trying to avoid such kind of confrontation. But at the end of it all, Miriam, is that we are going to have a referendum, and we are going to have a conversation which is more punctuated by the progress of people, by our unity, by ensuring that Kenya has the best and conducive environment to grow businesses, and just to unite Kenyans of all walks of life along a progressive agenda. And therefore, if the deputy president will be seen opposing such an idea like the BBI report, it is only noble in the eyes of Kenyans who really much concerned about the prosperity of this country, that he resigns and he battles it out. He takes battle outside the government of the day, Miriam. Mm-hmm. That is my take on that, and I believe that is the only thing that perhaps it is making the deputy president to keep his lieutenants and his arsenals quite restrained from maybe having a direct confrontation with the handshake partners, that is President Uhuru Kenyatta and the former Prime Minister. That is my take.
All right, and just up on that story, a Tanzania opposition leader called for sanctions against Magufuli. Tanzania opposition leader Tundu Lissu has called on the international community to impose sanctions against the regime of President John Magufuli, who was declared winner of the disputed October 28th elections. Lissu, who fled the country and is currently exiled in Belgium, said the international community needed to take action on Magufuli, top leaders in his government, and as well as the people that financed his administration to allegedly rig the election. Speaking yesterday in a virtual press conference, Lissu, the Chadema deputy party leader, maintained that he was the rightful winner of the election, but he said for the will of the people to be obeyed, the international community needed to step up. And I know usually when we have a problem, when we've seen how the opposition in Zimbabwe are the ones who went abroad and called for Zimbabwe to be sanctioned, and very interestingly, those Western powers and and those institutions, they listened. Are we likely to see a similar scenario in Tanzania? And is Tundu Lissu right in calling for these sanctions, owing to what really happened in the last elections there in Tanzania? Karanja.
Miriam, we must agree that the democracy and the political space in Tanzania is not quite leveled. Is not the ground is not level, and that is why you feel there is a lot of agitations from the opposition. Because Miriam, we were here discussing the election that was happening in Tanzania, and Miriam, that was a look of an election. It was not an election. It was just a process of looking like an election. And that is how Magufuli forced himself into power. Miriam, we must also agree that Magufuli is not in good terms with the people the oppositions are calling, because Magufuli is one man who does not tolerate the Western countries, does not tolerate the foreign powers. He only understands himself, and the only support he looks for is from the African leaders. Therefore, I don't feel like there will be any big impact, because Miriam, even after those sanctions, Magufuli will remain to be the president. And I feel like the people of Tanzania, Miriam, unless the people of a country are quite agitated to go to the streets, demonstrate, do all manner of things, that is how they attract the attention of the people of the international community, like the AUN and those other communities that come for the rights and human rights, those who champion for the human rights, and those who don't want a violation of such rights. Therefore, and Miriam, the situation in Tanzania is not that violent. It is not. It is cool, and you see the people in Tanzania, they have even normalized. Nowadays, they are not even in the street. They are in their usual business. Therefore, Miriam, I feel it is too late, because Miriam, I feel the best option that the opposition had is to quit the election and not to go for the process, because now it could have been more serious. But now they engaged on the same election that they said the process was not good. They went there knowing that this process is not well. Because Miriam, if people from Kenya could read the malice and the misconception around that election, why couldn't the opposition in that country be on front line of sidelining and boycotting such kind of an election? Therefore, to them, they did. They have themselves to blame to some extent, because Miriam, unlike to a nation in Kenya, where at least there's a process that looks credible, because there's a lot of security when it comes to matter election and so on. But in Tanzania, it was quite clear that this election, Magufuli will win. It was not quite fair. The intimidation from the press, observers from other countries and so on. Therefore, the opposition made a very big mistake of engaging on such a shoddy process. Therefore, to me, I feel like it is too late, and they will have to wait for the 5 years of Magufuli to be in power, or they go back to their country and start doing those kind of things that will attract the international community. But calling them when they are outside there, I don't see whether it will make any big impact, because Miriam, at the end of the day, we have seen countries where we have these dictatorial kind of regimes. There's nothing much they do. They just come there, try to do one or two things, but at the end of the day, they don't do much. As we see in Uganda, maybe the best they can do is to remove the person from the power. I think that will be the best solution. But this thing of negotiating and so on will not work with the kind of character that we
reaction. So the government has made a surprise U-turn and announced it's reopening cases of the 2007-2008 massacre. Victims of the horrendous Kiambaa Church are ready to testify. The move came more than 7 years after the government officially announced that there is no evidence to prosecute perpetrators of the bloodbath that left more than 1,100 people dead and 650,000 others forced from their homes. It also comes exactly 3 weeks after lawyer Paul Gisheru surrendered to the ICC in what others claim is an attempt to revive the crimes against humanity charges against Deputy President William Ruto. Yesterday, Director of Criminal Investigations George Kinoti said 72 murder cases, 44 land displacement cases, and 118 of threats linked to the 2007-2008 post-election violence had been registered. The DCI boss vowed to do what it takes within the law to bring the perpetrators of the post-election violence to book, saying that will happen very soon. Very soon you will see the outcome of this event. We will look for them. I know they're waiting for other poll violence to occur. Let them try. We will follow the truth and we will prepare all the files and say this is the person who killed this person. I don't know if you're able to watch that press conference, and when we were watching, Daniel, what was going through your mind?
Miriam, first and foremost, they say that those who don't learn from history are so much likely to repeat the mistakes of the past. And that press conference was a clear indication that the government of the day is so much committed to ensure that the ugly history of 2007-2008, which blighted our pages of history and our nationhood, will never again, Miriam, happen in this country. And of course, we have a reason to be worried when you listen to the kind of Nandi Senator Cherargei speaking. Kericho Senator Aaron Cheriot, the other day he told the people that we know who they are, and when they start, the country will come to a standstill. You know, those kind of inflammatory sentiments is what really brings a lot of worry amongst Kenyans, a majority of whom have gone back to stay where they were. They have resettled again where they were before 2007 chaos erupted. Therefore, it tells you, as a president, President Uhuru Kenyatta, who swore to protect the life and the property of the people.
Mm-hmm.
Various agencies, the PI, the police force, the military, and the judiciary, to protect the lives and the interests of any Kenyan living in any part of this country. And also, Miriam, Kenyans have to know that perhaps whatever happened in Rwanda in 1994 was not something new to that country. However, whatever it defeated the past with was the magnitude on which that kind of a particular genocide happened. And previously, the Hutus and the Tutsis had been having some kind of confrontational here and there, but the numbers never surpassed 1,000. But when these cases went on and on without being checked and without those who participate in ethnic animosities are cautioned, as Kinoti did yesterday, it is when now hell broke loose in 1994, and whatever happened is in the world record as the most atrocious genocide that ever happened in the world. So I believe if we don't learn from whatever happened in 2007-2008, then perhaps a repeat of the same could be quite imminent, owing to the fact that we are heading to a general election in 2022. And therefore, there's need for the government of the day to stress to any single Kenyan, any Mwananchi living at the basic grassroots level of this land, that wherever they are, they don't have to move, they don't have to be worried. They will and be able to practice their democratic mandate without coercion, without any cajolement, and without any imp of intimidation being meted upon them. And that is how we should be. And those are the kind of views that are in the BBI report, that we not need to worry when you are living in an area which is perceived not to be your ethnic origin. So to me, Miriam, I think the press conference yesterday by the DCIO chief, George Kinoti, serves as a warning shot to those ones who had maybe in mind the idea of bringing a new style or a new scheme of starting chaos in those hotspots which were there in 2007-2008 violence. Mm-hmm. So it is not something majority have been saying that divides Kenyans or maybe opens the old wounds, but it is something that serves as a short notice, an internal memo to the merchants of chaos and atrocities who are scheming to replicate the same thing that happened in 2007 in 2022. Mm-hmm. So let those ones, the political players, take in mind that the government of the day is watching, and they should be wary of the utterances that they make from yesterday henceforth, because the law will catch up with them if there will be any kind of violence that will erupt in their areas of jurisdiction, Miriam.
Mm-hmm. However, some brutal analysts claim that fresh PV probes are a desperate move by the system after failing in all their efforts to bring down the deputy president. They want to incite violence against communities in Rift Valley, especially Eldoret, to weaken DP's political strength in Mount Kenya. They may even burn houses to kill people, Elgeyo Marakwet Senator Kipchumba Murkomen said. Karanja.
Miriam. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I saw yesterday, before Wesonga comes in, it was giving that a press address by the DCI, George Kinoti. Apart from giving a warning, as Wesonga is saying, it was also a moment of hope to those people who felt like justice will not be delivered at the end of the day. Miriam, when you go to those areas of Eldoret, those are areas that I have been into, even those areas of Kiambaa. You go there in Yamombi, Munyaka, all those areas. And you see the people there, one thing that they lack is they are not hopeful, and they feel like they were sidelined by the government of Moi Kibaki. Now you have the government of Uhuru Kenyatta. But from yesterday, Miriam, I feel like, I don't know because I'm not there, but I feel like there was a moment of hope for those people who suffered, those people who lost their property, and those people who their loved one died because of that a bad thing that happened in 2007-2008 post-election violence. And Miriam, there have been a lot of things that are happening even prior to the yesterday press address. There are some people, especially from the Rift Valley, and who feel like it's a must for the deputy president to rule. And they have been going around saying that they are profiling. Miriam, when you say you are profiling a community, what do you mean? They went around and they came up with a thing they used to say, watu fulani wataona. Sasa, who are these watu fulani that wataona? I think those are the kind of things. And Miriam, I feel like the intelligence of this country is working and is not asleep. Because Miriam, we felt like they are asleep. But Miriam, from yesterday, it's quite clear that they have been watching what has been happening. They have been listening to what these people mean. They have been listening even when they talk in their native languages. Therefore, these are kind of hopeful moment for the people of Kenya. And also it serves as a warning to those people who might be thinking of repeating such kind of a scenario if their person or their candidate that will not see the presidency. Because Miriam, if they go and we have justice of the people who suffered in 2007, and the culprits will suffer severely, then it will serve as an indication of how bad is it to engage communities in those kind of animosity and killings and the destruction of property. And Miriam, I saw yesterday there was a lot of heat, especially from the Tanga group, and you saw even I was reading what they write in Facebook. And there was even the woman from Kirinyaga, Kipchumba Murkomen, Oscar Sudi, and Nixon Koril. And you could see they're like, we were in 2007, and whatever happened in 2007 should remain there in 2007. It should not be touched, Miriam. If we go on that kind of a scenario, Miriam, of not having justice delivered to the people of Kenya and the culprit suffering, Miriam, those things are likely to repeat themselves. Therefore, if justice will come and delivered, then those people who are planning to do the same in 2022, they'll have to suffer. They'll have to learn a lesson, and that is what we want. And when the Kipchumba Murkomen says a senator, and Miriam, this is a person who has been the majority leader in Senate, saying that this is an attempt to curtail the presidential and to flip the wings of the deputy president so that he will not be the president or be in State House in 2022. Miriam, that gives a lot of worries, because Miriam, the DCI didn't say that he is targeting a particular individual. He said those people who killed people in Kiambaa, who took as people's property. He didn't mention William Ruto. He did mention the people from the Rift Valley leaders. I don't see why they are worried. And Miriam, they say you are worried when you have any information or when you feel like that thing will fall on you. Because Miriam, all over the country, when you go to the Luo Nyanza, the Central Kenya, Western, Northeastern, people are they are just cool. But in Rift Valley, that is where the heat is. Miriam, it might be so because that is where we had those kind of things happening. And Miriam, it is quite worrying that all those things were happening, and we need to have a presidential candidate from that region. What if we had a presidential candidate from that kind of a region where they can do all those manner of things? Therefore, Miriam, these are warning, and I feel like even other politicians, not only from a particular region, but all politicians in this country, they should refrain from inciting Kenyans against ethnic and tribal basis. Because Miriam, you know, when somebody touches on your tribe, color, class, race, those are things that are so personal to an individual, and they can react so badly. Therefore, Miriam, I feel like this is a hopeful moment for our country. And Miriam, they should not say that we are opening the old woods, Miriam. We must learn from history so that it will not repeat, the bad history will not repeat itself in future. Therefore, Kinoti should continue doing his work. And at the end of the day, Miriam, let those people who suffered have justice delivered to them. That is my prayer.
Okay. So, Daniel, before you come in, Governor Jackson Mandago told of Kinoti, claiming that the move was political. He linked it to efforts to revive ICC cases against Ruto. And this is what he said. We don't want any artificial and manufactured problems like what Kinoti is trying to do. From Kinoti's statement, it is evident that he is operating from unusual position. So, and then down there, he's calling these manufactured problems. The darkest moment. The Kiambaa Church is perhaps the biggest highlight of the country's darkest moment, when at least 30 innocent lives, mainly women and children, were set ablaze alive while escaping attackers. But there was also horrendous police brutality, with more than 962 police shootings, 405 of them fatal, especially in opposition zones. For the first time, some victims of the Kiambaa massacre narrated to the Star the horrendous events that claimed the lives of their kin. Lucy Wanjiru, whose husband was a pastor in Kiambaa Church during that period, said the election left them homeless and hopeless. We were there and we saw how the fire was lit by some men. My husband could not escape on time. They even removed his 8 teeth, she said. Amid tears, Wanjiru, who declined to mention the name of her husband due to security reasons, said her husband was left for the dead. It was at this point that she rushed him to the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital in Eldoret, and after spending 9 days in the hospital, he was released, but he had marks all over his body. It is something that is still in my mind up to now, Wanjiru said, after they had to look for another place to stay. Right now, we moved out, and he is currently preaching in another area that I cannot mention. My children are scared, and they still have nightmares up to now. And Mandago is saying, you know, these stories, they're all artificial and manufactured. I don't know. Can we speak about his insensitivity to perhaps what is really going on? Because we know people really got hurt. Kenyans lost their lives. Kenyans were affected. So however we know it was a political process, and of course politicians will have something to say, and of course they'll have their own forever. And there are people who have never seen even a semblance of justice happen. And so even as they speak, our political class, can they try to be sensitive to actual people who got hurt by this event?
Miriam, whatever happened in 2007, 2008 is an event that will leave a lot of scars, not only physical, but also emotional in the hearts of many, many Kenyans who are victims, both directly and indirectly through their relatives, friends, and colleagues of this kind of mayhem that rocked our country then. And therefore, those words coming from Governor Jackson Mandago are really baffling and very, very insensitive, in that we still have a lot of victims out there who have never gotten compensated on the property they lost, who have never healed from losing their loved ones, who have never healed from the forced migration. They were forced to move from one place to another to go and settle in totally different place. And therefore, those ones who really dismiss the journey for the victims to get justice are the biggest enemies of this world, of this country. And they should tell us what interest they had in 2007, 2008 post-election violence, in that they don't want the local mechanism to be able to revisit those cases and ensure that justice is served at last. In Rwanda, when we had over 1 million people killed in genocide, they opened a tribunal in Arusha where all those who participated in the genocide were charged and prosecuted in court. And therefore, Kenya is no exception. I remember earlier on we tried, but the process got sabotaged and it could not see the light of the day. But now that we are heading to 2022 presidential election, general election, and also in that we already have some reports where some politicians have already started issuing threats and inflammatory rhetorics to their supporters. Then we need to take this matter seriously. We need to reiterate to the political class, or which Mandago is a member of, that they will not do those retrogressive and atrocities to Kenyans and be able to disrupt their innocent lives and just go without being held to account. So to me, I think Mandago is speaking from the elite's perspective. He does not care about the hoi polloi who live in those villages, which are always mad violence whenever we have post-election violence. He is very insensitive to the victims and their families, and I think he owes Kenyans an apology, especially those ones who had an encounter with the first-hand brutality of the violence, Miriam. It's very unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. All right, but Kikuyu Member of Parliament Imani Ichung'wah dismissed the new push as political. He's quoted as saying, "From the fight against corruption to now an attempt to drive ethnic animosity in the Rift to rescue the BBI. Come on, a little intelligence." Nakuru Senator Susan Kihika shared similar sentiments, saying the DCI is being used by the system to incite Kenyans to violence and then blame it on some people. "I hope they don't kill people and burn houses to justify Kinoti's statements. Kenyans will resist the temptation to engage in violence and continue living in peace." Javen.
Miriam, you see, the people who are making all this noise are the people from the Tanga. And Miriam, you must be worried. A member of parliament from Kikuyu, which interest is he speaking in matters that are of whole country, and he is trying to profile like these are problems in Rift Valley. Killings only happen in Rift Valley. They should not be hypocritical. They should at least open up and understand that people died in Kisii, in Kisumu, in Molo, around those are areas that they fell in the category of Mount Kenya region, because Nakuru County, we count it as a part of the Mount Kenya, as the bigger Mount Kenya counties. Therefore, they should not try to take these things to a particular a community or a region. It didn't happen only in Rift Valley, but across the country in different places. Therefore, when the Kikuyu Member of Parliament and his counterparts in Tanga try to say that these are moved to curtail and not to make the deputy president look weak, is a way to make sure that he will not see the presidency. Miriam, how sure are they that he will win the election? Because these people, the way they talk is like they are talking and are proving that they are quite sure that what will happen. It's like they already know the future. They already know what the future holds for the deputy president. That should not be the point. Because Miriam, right now, they are in government. They are supposed to be delivering services, Miriam. But Miriam, what they did, they diverted their attention to hustlerism agenda, to giving wheelbarrows, to radicalizing youth to believe that they are supposed to live in poverty. Because when you give a wheelbarrow and you are telling them that you are not rich because somebody else took your what was rightfully yours, that is amounts to incitement, Miriam. Therefore, they should not come at this point to try to say that the fight against corruption was aiming the deputy president. We had the likes of John Waruke, we had the NYS2, we had the NYS1. Does they mean that William Ruto is the only person who is corrupt in this country? Do they want to mean that William Ruto is the only culprit that they want to profile him as in the 2007-2008 post-violence election? By virtue of him being gone to Hague, even the president was in Hague. Joshua Sang was in Hague. Therefore, they should not try to bring all this kind of confusion, Miriam. And Miriam, what they are doing, Miriam, a person who, from the innuendo language that they are doing, what they are doing now is incitement, Miriam. Because when you are trying to tell a community is being targeted by the DCI, when Madago is telling that these people are aiming the deputy president, when the likes of Els Kasudi say that amounts to incitement, Miriam. And Miriam, these are the kind of people who don't want this country to go. They don't support the BBI, which is a healing process of the old things that happen in this nation. They are now trying to profile and to make it look like it's an affair between the DCI and the deputy president. Miriam is so unfortunate that the same people who have been saying the DCI is corrupt, the DCI is a Mkono, a state house, when they need his services, they go to him. That is hypocritical, Miriam, because you cannot say that Mr. Kinoti is not a good man. He is not fair. But Miriam, when you yourself need services, you go to him. Therefore, we must stop this kind of hypocritical messages. People should be sensitive to what they say at this moment. Because, Miriam, we might see also some people heading to courts, not because they are culprits, but because of the kind of rhetoric they are using from now onwards. And Miriam, we must that at the end of the day, in 2022, we will have a president. In 2027, we'll have a president. And Miriam, there's nobody who is entitled to be the president of this country. Miriam, by them saying that it's only the deputy president, the Kenyans will decide on the ballot. Therefore, they should not be worried. And Miriam, when you sell your agenda, Kenyans will decide. They should not feel like this is against the deputy president, because even the president was in ICC. All these people were taken there. Therefore, this is a national conversation. We don't want this thing to be repeated, Miriam. And they are the same people who have been telling us of Watu Fulani. They are the same people who went on record of saying that the Kenyatta family and some communities are the ones who have the properties, and that is why they are making other Kenyans poor, Miriam. Therefore, these kind of languages, I think that is why Kenyatta has waked up at the right time, so that, Miriam, it is not about the 207 march, but in future, Miriam, because we say in Kiswahili that kosa si kosa, kosa ni kurudia kosa. Therefore, we might be forgotten and forgive those who did what they did in 2007. But who are these people planning to repeat or a replica of it in 2022? That is where our worry is as Kenyans, Miriam.
Mm-hmm. So yesterday, Mr. Kinoti explained, I'm reading from the Daily Nation, page 4. It is also the main headline there on the Daily Nation as we conclude there. Daniel says, yesterday, Mr. Kinoti explained the cases will be tried locally, as he announced that recording of statements will be followed by a meeting with the Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai and Interior CS Fred Matiang'i, after which detectives will move to arrest to areas that were mostly affected by the violence, I can for sure tell you that the entire criminal justice system will stand with the tears and cries of the victims, and you're going to see it happen the moment we begin presenting the cases to court. Bearing burn marks and scars, the victims who turned up to record statements recounted their painful experiences. Wallace, a resident of Njoro who suffered a deep cut in the head, said he has been constantly dealing with rampant cases of livestock being stolen. So after he returned, he was affected in Molo, and I guess having no place else to go. So he still stayed put there in Molo, but he's saying even since then, he has been constantly dealing with rampant cases of livestock being stolen from his farm and threats of his property being burned. And just taking away all the politics and everything else involved in this, and this story is quite sensitive to Kenyans, and this is one of those stories that you really don't want a lot of politics to come into play, because the people there, when you listen to that, when you listen to other people who are victims in Naivasha, other people who are victims who were killed in Kibra, in Nairobi, in Mathare, and other places across this country, you realize there are people who are still hurting. So there are people who lost everything. There are people who, like this guy we're just reading about, still had to stay put there in Molo. But even after 13 years later, he still has his livestock taken from him, and he still faces certain threats. And when you drive through, because I drive through that road going to my village, you pass by a place like Molo itself. The houses which used to be there, shops that were burned, they have never been rebuilt. And when you pass, there's usually some places where you see post-election violence happened. Houses were burned, and people were affected. And the initial owners have never really come back there to rebuild their lives there. So that tells you this peace that we're talking about, that we have here in the country, this unity that we are seeking to have in this country. There are things that we must talk about. There are issues that we must discuss. There are uncomfortable conversations that we must have as a country if we truly want to heal. And justice must come to the people who have suffered, who in the previous election, in the previous days, even from the start of after our independence, there are cases and some animosity that people have and they walk around with. So even if we have however many handshakes we might have in the future moving forward, if some of these things are not truly addressed, if some of these things are not truly looked at, politics out of it, but just looked at from the sense that our fellow Kenyans suffered and they walk around, they cannot go back to their homes, and you pass by and you see somebody else, as a doctor likes saying here, and when he says it, sometimes people think he's exaggerating or it's a joke. I drive through that road and you see somebody else is in the house that you used to own. Somebody else is stealing a land that you used to have. That is a problem. And then you expect this person to heal. And I'm not just saying the Rift Valley. These things happen across the country. And we have victims upon victims from different communities in this country. So when you see our leaders, political leaders, coming out and dismissing and being very insensitive and saying and calling this drama as if they are not in this country when these things are happening, then I think we have a bigger problem in our hands. Daniel, as we conclude.
Miriam, just like you said, you cannot have reconciliation and forgiveness before justice. You cannot shake hands with someone who is still milking your cow that he took away from you during the time of war. For you to be good neighbors and really come together and forge a path of unity is for him or her to bring back whatever belongs to you, and then you can be able to shake hands on a very, very clean slate. So to me, I think it's very unfortunate that some leaders are very much determined to block this path of justice that is set to take place. And owing to the fact that, Miriam, these are the same politicians who call people to violence, are the same one who are still worst of all, inciting people and issuing threats and ultimatums for the people who are not who are deemed not to be the indigenous people of those particular areas to either vote for their candidate or if not face brutality. I think it's quite unfortunate. And what I'll have to say to those politicians who think that these are a scheme maybe to be able to nab the deputy president, I feel they are not being genuine. And if there was anyone who this particular expedition by the DCI and other relevant the justice system are pursuing, if there's anyone that this expedition is going to benefit more than else, is the deputy president, because he had him and Joshua Rapsang, because they both have their cases not really close at the ICC. The status there is a case vacated, which means if sufficient evidence is found to link them to the atrocities that happened in 2007, then the case will be open. But look, Miriam, on the flip side, if here locally, if our Kenyan judicial system can be able to put an individual responsibility to those people who committed these crimes, you know, some of them were neighbors to the victim, and perhaps if the wheel of justice can roll quite efficiently, it will be able to be proven that these are the people who are responsible, and therefore it might even shift the blame from the deputy president and his co-accused Joshua Rapsang of committing the 2007-2008 post-election violence. So it really baffles me when his allies really reach malice and bad intent, and they say that perhaps these are a scheme by their detractors to be able to fix the deputy president. It's very rational, Miriam, to say the least. So therefore, if they feel that their man is innocent, if they feel that they have nothing to hide, let them support our law enforcement agencies. Let them make sure that all the victims give their correct statements, and they feel so much secure in doing so, so that at the end of the day, justice may prevail, and only those who are responsible for the killings and the atrocities that occurred are held accountable, Miriam. That is the only way we shall be able to forge a peaceful path as a country, and also be able to talk about reconciliation and unity of our nation. That is my parting shot, Miriam.
All right. Thank you so much. Karanja, is there anything you need to add on top of that, because we're done?
Yeah, Miriam, let me add this and say that going into the future, Miriam, we must avoid going back to what happened in 2007 in this country. And Miriam, even the Kenyans of this country, I want to urge them not to accept to be used by politicians, because Miriam, at the end of the day, these politicians don't take pangas, they don't take arrows and stones. They are the people and their supporters who do that. Therefore, we as the people of this country, we must refrain from being used by our political elite to cause chaos, to cause mayhem, to break other people's property, and to kill, Miriam. Therefore, as a people, we must also be well enlightened to ensure that we make a sober decision in the ballot. And if an election, Miriam, will be free and fair, Miriam, I don't see anything of anybody inciting people to go on the streets and to cause a kind of a destruction of property. Therefore, the responsibility is upon us as the people of Kenya to be electing good leaders who will be able to uphold the constitution, will be able to uphold the rule of law, and will be able to deliver services to us, and who will not incite us against anybody else. Because, Miriam, right now, we live in a community, Miriam. When you go to these towns, people live as brothers and sisters. In your estates, where you stay with people from different communities, Miriam, and there's no problem. This problem is hit by our politicians, Miriam. Therefore, we must continue, even during elections, to extend a heart of gratitude to our brothers from different communities, because at the end of the day, we belong to the bigger family of Kenya. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. This is just one of those stories I don't really love talking about, but it's quite one of those unfortunate moments that we've had in this country. And perhaps I hope that we learned our lessons moving forward. So when you see these politicians walking around the country and still being very careless, you wonder what really is going on, if at all they've learned anything from that event and others that even preceded that. Thank you so much. This has been Good Morning Africa. I'll be back at the top of the hour, and we shall be looking at a totally different topic there with a varied a list of panelists from across Africa. This has been Good Morning Africa. As I've said there, my name is Miriam Mugutu. Thank you, Javan. Thank you, Dan.